while you're sitting on the couch door dashing pizza, we'll be on the sidelines watching the game.
Hey, respect on that, though.
No. I'm ready to throw up already.
I love it.
It's the Rivalry Podcast, garbage-free football podcast focused on Ohio State and Michigan with just a couple weeks until the game. I'm Jace. That's JP.
What up?
Thanks for following us on socials at Rival Pod. We're going to spin the wheel, break the ice with a little bit of wheel route. I want to say a big thanks to the J Company for sponsoring the podcast.
Let's go.
Follow up with your home all over again, the JAEcompany.com. If you're not watching on YouTube, same handle at Rival Pod.
Oh, an easy one. An easy little one.
Of the season.
And this can be for your team, or it can just be a general from this season so far. What has been one of your favorite moments?
Highlight of the season. Man,
or you could do both, because we don't play by the rules here. It's our show. It's our podcast.
We make it up. Man, I mean, I think for Michigan, I mean, beating Michigan State just by 50 in their building.
A beautiful thing.
I mean, it's not the strength. I don't care about any of that. This is the secondary rival for Michigan. Anytime you can beat your rival is a good day. You can beat them by 50 in their own building, especially with everything else swirling around the Michigan program. Yeah. I think that's the highlight for Michigan so far. Very impressive.
Overall, excluding your team?
Overall, that Oregon-Washington game was fan-freaking-tastic. And Oregon, by the way, watch out for them because they're a dangerous football team. They're a dangerous football team. They're not out of this thing yet.
They're my favorite one-loss team over Alabama by far. It's not even close. For me, there's a handful to choose from. I feel like I'm going to be super biased because we were there, but the Notre Dame game was just
to be for you.
a peak football game in general. But then also as an Ohio State fan, it was just so cool to see the tradition behind it, to see two massive programs going head to head. That was one. Penn State was another one. It was a little bit of a sloppier game, but anytime you can beat those guys, it's just always a core memory for me.
Yeah, top 10 wins.
Yeah, I hate them. So that would be my highlight. And then I would agree with you. I think it's got to be the Oregon-Washington game. That just
it's been the best game so far.
Yeah.
I think we're going to get a better one, and I think it's going to be the one that we're looking forward to at the end of the year. But I agree. Right now, that's a great football game.
Mm-hmm.
Keep an eye on some of these one-loss teams that, we buried Alabama maybe a little bit prematurely.
I don't know if I did.
I did.
I don't know if I did.
Excited.
I feel like if you check the receipts, I feel like I said this is still a really Alabama's always going to find themselves up there. I
got caught up in the moment. Okay,
I wish it were true.
I saw Saban falling like lightning, and
the day that happens, all of heaven will rejoice. But for now, we're stuck in whatever this abyss is.
More on Oregon later in the podcast as a little teaser. Let's start with Ohio State, because Ohio State's upcoming game is, well, let's just say not spicy. But
at least they have their never mind. Yeah, they don't even have that.
This weekend, though, was a weird game for Ohio State.
It was.
And I'm curious your gut reaction to a Rutgers game that I'm going to assume did not go the way that most Buckeye fans were assuming it would.
No. And I want to preface this. I am going to be a little bit biased because my second team
is called The Rivalry, and you're sitting behind an Ohio State flag. I would hope you'd be somewhat biased.
I also have a Rutgers jersey beside me because I do
hold your helmet.
I don't write the second, but it's tempting.
I'll hold it.
I do love Rutgers. And so the one thing is, I feel like that team was getting disrespected a lot. And I even cracked a joke, and I would still agree with this sentiment as well, that Rutgers being your key win on a schedule is not great.
No.
But I will also say that doesn't mean Rutgers is bad. This is not the same Rutgers team that was losing by 35 to 40 points year in, year out.
78.
Just 78-0 or whatever, the thing I've tried to block out and speak to my therapist about. It is not that Rutgers team. This team has talent. The defense is a good defense. You're starting to see some of their offensive talent showcased. I think Gavin Wimsatt had his best game of the year.
Which is saying something because
just the way he controlled the offense, he had his best game of the year. It gave you something where you look at it and you go, his inaccuracy is still there, but you can see it. You can start to see this is a guy that could be a really good player for us come next year. Kyle Monangai is only a junior. Dude had 159 yards, which is my concern walking away from this game.
Yeah,
not that I think he's not skilled. I think he's one of the better Big Ten running backs.
Yeah, he's good.
But you just absolutely can't have 159 yards on the ground. When you play people like Corum, I'm not even putting Donovan Edwards in there right now, but I would still say he is talented enough, as proven last year, to do that.
And like, I get too that, we'll have Buckeye fans who look at that and go, well, a big chunk of that was on that weird, fake tush push thing.
Which
doesn't matter.
Respect, because you know what? I hate that excuse. That was a perfully designed fourth down play. I've never seen anything like it. It faked everybody out.
Eyes. I had it muted, and I just saw Wimsatt kind of look around, and I went, you've got to be kidding me. Because at this point, I'm still very invested in the game. Yeah. And next thing I know, Monanga's just, there he goes. I'm like, I think
for 45 yards or something crazy.
I think I woke up my kids. They were taking a nap, and I yelled.
As you should have.
So sorry about that.
It's just irritating as a Rutgers fan as well to hear kind of the disrespect from people even after this. Because I think two things can be true. This was not a pretty Ohio State win.
No.
But also, this was a great performance by Rutgers.
I think if you're Rutgers, you can be very pleased with it.
As somebody that follows Rutgers fans, sports accounts, everything, the hype around this game was real. This team was ready to go. They were energized. Ohio State coming in as the number one team. That team wanted to upset them. Yep. They played their best game all over the place. The thing that I'm taking away from this as an Ohio State fan, the offense was ugly the first half.
Yeah.
Second half, they outscored Rutgers 28-7, and it was a 19-point win. Am I ever going to be upset about a 19-point victory? No. I think at the end of the day, the second half adjustments were made. TreVeyon Henderson was another bright spot, another 200-yard total performance. He had like 80-something on the ground, 128 receiving. Dude came back just like last week, helped carry the offense. But there are some inexcusables. McCord, stat-wise, was not impressive. He was like 19 to 26 or something for $180. 3 touchdowns, sure. Marvin Harrison kept relatively quiet. Rutgers has some good secondary players, so that's not crazy, but you expect more out of a guy that's been talked about as being in the Heisman. I don't think it took him out of the running.
No, I don't think so.
Because he did have 2 touchdown grabs.
But that's where once again, to your point, because I feel like we have to drill this home for a segment of Buckeye fans every week.
Yes.
I feel like we have to drill this home of, you could look at the stat line and go, well, 3 touchdowns, that's great. That tells me you didn't watch the football game.
Yeah, and I think that's
because even some of the particularly the last one to Marv, was thrown behind him. That's a great catch by Marvin Harrison.
Are you talking about the one right off the side? See, I thought that was a great throw.
The last touchdown was behind him.
I'm trying to think which one you're talking about because I feel like
the final touchdown for Ohio State
to the outside of the end zone.
Yeah.
I thought that was a great ball.
No, it was way behind him. And Marv made a great play to adjust his body. But we've seen throws like that from McCord. We see him miss guys open because he throws it low or he throws it behind him. The interception was just inexcusable.
Yeah.
At the end of the half. And thankfully, and again, I don't know what the philosophy is for coaches trying to pull off upsets like this. I know Rutgers had the lead going into the half, and I get that. But they kicked 3 field goals.
9-7 at half.
In positions that, I'm sorry, if you're going to win that football game, you better be punching it in the end zone.
Especially the way you're running the ball. Especially the way you're running the ball.
No, I've not yet seen a team pull off a miraculous upset by kicking field goals against teams like Michigan or Ohio State. It doesn't happen.
Yeah.
You've got to find the end zone.
100%. I think ultimately for me, I think there's just this huge thing with Kyle McCord where we are so spoiled by the great quarterbacks that we've had come through that having somebody that's slightly above average has been like a shell shock to us. And I don't think I've ever had that expectation of him that he was going to reach that level. I think he's performed kind of how I expected him to. He'll have games, and this upcoming weekend is one that I think he'll bounce back on. I think so too. This is going into Michigan State. This is a game where they don't scare me at all. They're on their backup quarterback. They've got. Who did they beat this last week? Was it Nebraska? No.
Yeah.
Was it Nebraska that they beat? 20-17.
Hey, what are you doing?
Beat them 20-17, but I just don't see it being done at the shoe at night. Some sick jerseys going to be displayed. The crowd's going to be into it because everybody hates Michigan State.
Let me ask you a tangential football question.
Yeah.
What do you think about the all grays? Because let me balance this out. I think they're gross. And also on the other side, so you don't think I'm just being a homer, it's like the Michigan all yellows for me. I'm like, what are we doing?
I don't hate them, but there's just something that I would prefer about being under the lights and the all whites, or even even like bust out some sick red.
I thought the blacks look really
The blacks were cool.
I think the blacks are really good.
Yeah, that one was cool.
You don't wear them, in my opinion, you don't wear them for the game, but this is a perfect opportunity to wear them. This is perfect.
Yeah, you never absolutely on board. Absolutely on board with never messing with the jerseys for the game. I don't know. I'm indifferent to them. I wish that it was a more traditional look. I don't always love when they go like try and modernize stuff, because I feel like part of what makes the Buckeyes is that classic feel. It's the same thing with Michigan.
And I'm even okay with, Michigan's worn like the all blues
and that's
for a couple
fine.
Seasons, and I actually think that that's been a really nice choice.
Those look cool.
I think they look good.
Those look cool.
Yeah.
I wouldn't mind seeing some all reds.
It will not matter what Ohio State wears this weekend.
No.
If they show up, you hit all the points, right? Like we scouted Michigan State, not in person. But we've watched.
My
Michigan
Venmo
State.
says otherwise.
We watched Michigan play Michigan State, so I've looked at this team up and down, and there's nothing there.
There's no.
Their punting is okay sometimes.
There were bright spots for Rutgers on offense that I thought. Oh, and I even said it last week. I wanted to see how they handled Wimsatt and Monangai, and they didn't very well, and it showed.
And if you're Michigan State, I agree. You take the same approach here, where Rutgers ran the clock all the way down.
Mm-hmm.
They snapped the ball. They hand it off. They get 3 yards. Great. Let's reset and do it again. That's got to be Michigan State's game plan.
And
you are not going to win. Number one, you're not going to win. Period. But you're certainly not winning a track meet. You have got to. You need a 9-7 lead at the half. That's the type of thing Michigan State has.
And that is when I will start to legit get concerned, because I thought even going into this week,
in this game,
if they are in this game at all, because nobody on their offensive side of the ball scares me. Nobody on the defensive side of the ball scares me.
Like they've got here to be fair, like Jalen Berger is a talented dude.
Yeah.
Like there's a couple guys that's like, you can see it there. What is it? Cam Hayward? Am I thinking of the right guy? I don't think that's his name. Never mind.
I know who you're referring to,
what I'm thinking about though?
Yeah.
Like, there's a few talents, but there's nothing there. So if you get into, late second quarter and this is still a 10-point game or something, and concerned.
This to me,
you don't have to beat them by 50, but you've got to be in full control.
Yeah, and this to me has to be a game for Kyle McCord to kind of shut the haters up for a little bit. I need McCord to come out. There are things that I need to see. I need to see Emeka Ibuka out there. I need to see.
Which this is a legitimate question. Did he play?
I don't remember seeing him out there. I think he was dressed.
As a Michigan guy, I was watching, but kind of more casually. I don't remember seeing him.
Also, you got to get Cade Stover back. Yeah, he was out, which I do think genuinely hurt their offense.
I think so too.
Because he is a great run blocker. He's also got reliable hands. G. Scott had himself a good day, but it's not the same. It's not the same.
No, and it wasn't. I mean, he also made some mistakes that Cade Stover doesn't make.
He didn't have a Cade Stover game, like I've called on this podcast. So I need to see TreVeyon Henderson continuing to do what TreVeyon Henderson's been doing, which is running the ball effectively, being a valuable passing option for McCord. I need to see McCord really take control. I've got to see him get 3-4 touchdowns, 300+ yards, be accurate with the ball. I think this is the team that he can do it against, because everybody could.
And if he does, it is that double-edged sword. If he does, it's good. You're supposed to, but also that's for what we've seen from McCord over the first 9-10 weeks, whatever it's been. You need to see him do that, because he needs that confidence. Because guess what? Michigan's coming in 2 weeks.
Well, and here's where
the performance that I saw against Wisconsin, against Penn State, and I'll be honest, the performances I've seen as a body of work as a whole are not going to beat Michigan. They're just not. Michigan's too good for that.
And here I am at the end of the day. Here's where I stand with McCord. All throughout the season, I thought he looked serviceable. I thought this is a guy we can win big games with. It's been proven, because we won against Penn State, won against Notre Dame. These past 2 weeks have been the worst games of his year so far. Back-to-back weeks.
Yeah.
Now I'm starting to not be concerned, but I'm definitely looking at him more than I was in the past, with a little bit of hesitancy.
Yeah.
Where I'm walking in and I'm going, you've had 2 back-to-back bad weeks, granted against somewhat good defenses.
Yeah.
This is your chance.
If we're talking about winning a national title, beating Michigan, winning a Big Ten championship.
For sure. And that's what I'm saying is those performances aren't going to get it done.
Yeah.
But do I think that is a viewpoint of how he is as a quarterback? No, I think he's having some off weeks. I think this is the perfect week. This week, then you go at home again against Minnesota. Which should be another game to kind of get your confidence.
Those are 2 tune-up games before the big one.
Which is great. That's exactly what he needs at this moment in time. So I'm hoping for a reset. My final score prediction, 49 Ohio State, 10 Michigan State.
You think they scored 10 points on you?
Man, I think they get a Purdue late second touchdown.
That's fair. I'll accept that. That late, and I'm not even talking about betting
What a
lines.
loft,
Okay,
though.
I'm not even talking about the betting line. I'm just talking about. Come on, like 42-6 just feels so much better.
Well, and what a weird. It wasn't even a great throw.
No.
It was just lofted in the air for
it was at least as annoying as the Minnesota. Let me just.
It's like he's down there somewhere.
Somebody's down there.
Yeah.
You know, it was like, come on, like it doesn't matter, but also it's annoying. 42-6.
Okay, we're not far off.
No, it's just there's not much else to say about this. Ohio State could look like they did against Wisconsin and Rutgers and still win 42-6. So does that mean that McCord has himself a really good day? I don't know. I think if I'm Ohio State, I think TreVeyon Henderson's getting the ball a lot because 200 plus all-purpose yards.
But also, I'm a little nervous to let him go. I mean, to me, it's like let Henderson go, and if you're up 20, if you're up 28-6 or something a half, I'm pulling all of them. I might let McCord go for another drive in the third.
Let my guys,
but I am getting them out of there. Maybe a Lincoln Kindholtz showing. I don't know if Devin Brown is fully healthy to return yet.
Yeah,
I haven't really seen.
At least right now, I don't think so, but I could be wrong on that.
Hey, I'd be fine. All you Buckeye fans can finally maybe see your boy Lincoln, so we can bust out the Lincoln.
You're going to be at the shoe on Saturday, and you've got something coming up the next week as well that you want to talk about.
I'm going to be there this upcoming Saturday for the Michigan State game.
I'm going to be emotionally recovering from whatever happens with Penn State.
Hopefully, a Penn State loss. So
I'm out for this one.
So I will be there. I'll be posting stuff all across our socials at RivalPod. You can follow us on Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it, and Instagram at RivalPod. But then the following week, the 14th, 2 days after my birthday, you can come say a late happy belated birthday to me at the shoe. We're going to be a part of the Varsity Blood Drive. It's the battle for Ohio versus Michigan, which right now Ohio is dominating. It was like 500. It's like 500 something to like 100. So it's not great. But we are going to be there. It's at the shoe in the Huntington Suite Tuesday, November 14th. Tons and tons of things are going to be going on. We're going to be giving away some stickers. We're also going to be giving away some rivalry t-shirts if you've seen us wear those on the podcast as well. But some cool stuff Varsity is doing as well. You've got former Buckeye players. Braxton Miller is going to be there, one of them. Brutus is going to be there. They're giving stadium tours. And then the real thing, they're giving away tickets to the game. Ooh. You can sign up, do all that, check out all the information, reserve your time slot at varsity.org. That's VERSITI.org. We'll put something up there, I'm sure.
And if you want to check out the stickers for yourself or the t-shirts and you can't make the Varsity Blood Drive, consider becoming a Patreon subscriber as well. riverradio.com/rivalry. You'll find the link there. That's a huge part of helping us say yes to getting better content, saying yes to more opportunities. College football playoffs are coming up, and it's a chance to give something back to you and say, hey, thanks for supporting this podcast. We're 5 years into this thing, and it's amazing to me just how far this thing has come from ground up to where it's at now. It's an amazing thing, and it's thanks to friends like you. So consider becoming a Patreon subscriber, and also want to say a big thanks to our sponsor for making this happen as well, Elevated Integrity Construction.
Yeah, man.
Your project is too important to go with anybody else. There's no guesswork here. Aaron Carroll and his team do a phenomenal job from the church build, business build, home build, design. They can help you out with that as well. Go with integrity. You'll find them at elevatedintegrity.com. I will say this. I've also really enjoyed on social that on YouTube in particular, we've been getting like all these like random, I think they're Ohio State fans, but it's like the worst subsection of Buckeye fans ever.
It's actually a majority of Michigan fans.
It's pretty bad. It's pretty bad. And here's the only thing I have to say, and I don't usually like to do this, but we got comments like this podcast won't last, blah, blah. My favorite one was from somebody who was mocking the number of subscribers we have. And then I checked the profile and he has 0. So there's that too. Also, while you're sitting on the couch door dashing pizza, we'll be on the sidelines watching the game.
Hey, respect on that though.
No. Now,
respect on that.
We will be at more games watching from the sideline than you have ever been at in your life. So
I love
there's
this.
that. There's that. Let's talk about Michigan now that everybody's riled up, shall we?
I'm good to go. Let's do this thing.
Michigan, Purdue this past weekend, just not even a contest. Michigan gets up big early, kind of falls asleep at the wheel for a little bit. That middle frame, like second quarter, halfway through the third. Not much going on there. And my favorite, though, was the announcers for NBC were trying to paint this like Purdue was getting momentum to go into the half. Like,
no,
brother,
my guy.
It's like
It was what,
17 to 3, 17 to 6, 20 to 6.
No, it was 20.
Like
it was 20 to 6.
It was bad, whatever it was, and they wanted so desperately for this to be a competitive game, and it just wasn't. I mean, this was Michigan left and right.
Literally, any other team in the Big Ten is probably a little bit better. Well,
maybe.
Some, and it just wasn't. I don't know why people are surprised. This is exactly what I expected.
Yeah,
Michigan,
Purdue's not good.
Say whatever jokes about sign stealing or whatever. Michigan is still.
It's funny. I get it.
It's fine. Michigan is still a dang good football team, and so it's not that all of their
that warms the little heart.
I didn't say they were great.
Okay,
I said good.
But here's what I loved was, and I get this to an extent, but Ryan Walters, head coach for Purdue, like went off on his podcast about Michigan, the sign stealing thing. He said, it's like teaching our players a new language. We're going to have to huddle. We're going to have to do this. We got this evidence. Purdue didn't huddle. And also it did not remotely matter.
No, and it did
not matter. And then at the end, and this is where it just really rubs me the wrong way. You know that the handshake between the coaches is going to be a little bit tense. Okay. Like you get that. Walters doesn't even stop. He basically just kind of like slaps Harbaugh's hand on the way by. If you're going to put your name to this and talk a big game, be a man and shake his hand.
I don't have an issue with it.
Why wouldn't you have an issue with that?
Because I expected it. I didn't think he was going to come out and do that. Now,
but like if you're
the way he was talking about it,
I'm going to stand boldly for this, then stand boldly for it and shake his hand. And you don't have to have a conversation with him.
Well, but it's all about
the whiniest thing imaginable.
I don't know. It's all about a respect thing. If you feel like they're genuinely cheating against you and you have no respect for that coach, then you're not going to stand and shake their hand and be.
Yes, you are though.
I don't think so. I don't think so.
Think about
sportsmanship would be not stealing a sign.
Think about how tense Michigan and Ohio State have been forever.
Yeah,
and there's still even after Harbaugh beat Day in Columbus, Day, to his credit, comes over. They don't hug it out.
I just think it's different.
They shake hands and move on.
I think even, and I don't know. I don't know if you agree with this or not, but I feel as an Ohio State fan, I hate Maize and Blue, the Maize and Blue. Hate them. I don't like Harbaugh. I don't like McCarthy, but I respect them. I don't have to like them, but I respect.
Sure, yeah.
And I can go into that game filled with rage, and it can be tense. But it's a weird to say a good hate, because at the end of the day, I still respect the heck out of that program.
Yeah, you have. I mean, you have.
If it was different, if like what Purdue's coach was saying, if he genuinely feels that was true and they were cheated, I don't prefer it. But it's what I expected, so I'm not concerned with it. If it was a bigger name coach, but that dude's going to be there for like 2 years and be done.
I saw somebody comment that he was done roasting Ryan Walters mostly because we didn't know who that was 3 days ago.
Yeah.
And that's about the coldest thing you can say. Purdue aside, Michigan has got a massive game coming up on Saturday. And it should be obvious, but the game against Penn State is massive for a number of reasons. Obviously, it's got national title implications. It has Big Ten championship implications. Michigan's season, like just the success of a season, very much depends on this as well. Because even if you lose to them, even if you were to miss the playoffs, even if both teams miss the playoffs, they're going to get a better bowl game than you. So there's a lot of things that are circled around here. Probably the biggest one, though, is, of course, the off-field stuff. And again, updates are coming left and right. We're not going to touch that because it'll be outdated by the time we're done talking about it. But if you're Michigan, you know that, and I'm talking specifically about the kids on the team here. These kids are having their talent doubted because teams are suggesting, okay, well, you're only good because X, Y, Z. I get it. I get I don't agree, but I get it. I would say the same thing in the other direction. These kids look like they're locked in. They look like they're ready, and they've got something to prove now to show that in the first real test of the season, they've got something to prove. The first real test of the season, and now you've got this other cloud kind of hanging over the program. You doubly have something to prove. This could not be a bigger game for Michigan. This is the biggest game against Penn State that Michigan's probably ever played. Hands down.
It's got to be up there.
It's not remotely close. Like, the only reason that it's not bigger is obviously Ohio State at the end of the year. Michigan has got to find a way to get it done against Penn State. Do you think they will?
It's tough. It really is. Because I see what you're saying, and I agree with the majority of it. I do think coaches like Ryan Walters from Purdue can go out there and say, you're only as good because you did this. It wouldn't have mattered. It wouldn't have mattered.
2-17 back.
Yeah, it wouldn't have mattered against teams like Purdue. But but that stuff does matter when it comes to teams that I feel like you're pretty close in talent with. And I feel like that genuinely is Penn State. I feel like this is the best team that I can remember them having in a long time. Last week, they destroyed Maryland 51-15. They finally looked kind of like the old early season Penn State heading into that Ohio State game that everybody thought they were. The defense was doing well. Allar was playing well. I think it was Katron Allen that had himself a good game. I couldn't remember if it was him or Singleton. He had 90-something yards.
Had the majority of the carries in this one.
He looked good. This is at Beaver Stadium, which doesn't help your case at all.
No, and we got the chance to take in the noon game against Ohio State.
Yeah, and we saw, and it's not a night game, but we were there. We were there at noon, and it was rowdy.
Like, you got to understand the press box. I don't know the last time they updated it. But the press box, when it was Parker Washington scored, I think to make it 14-7 or something at that point. But Parker Washington scored, and the entire press box was shaking.
Yeah.
Not like, oh, it's like I can kind of feel like it felt
we were going to collapse
for a little bit. It felt like a mini earthquake. That place is always going to be tough to play in. Here's where I'm going to caution Michigan fans who want to either say we're just going to blow through it, they're overrated. Yeah. That's just not true. But I'll also caution kind of the doomsday scrollers, because that's me. That's absolutely me.
Do you need a mirror to look into?
It's like I'm a mirror. Well, even the Maryland game with about 10 minutes to go, was a 2-score game. Mm-hmm. Maryland turned the ball over 4 times on Saturday. 3 of them were in the fourth quarter. They rushed for negative 49 yards. Congratulations, random viewer on YouTube. You have more rushing yards last weekend.
Random name, bunch of numbers, you're up.
Well done. Good for you. Get yourself a juice box and an orange slice. The reason I say that is not to discount what Penn State did, but to shine the light maybe a little bit on Maryland and go, listen, Talia giveth and Talia taketh away, and Talia tooketh away quite a bit. Yeah. Here's a couple concerns and comforts if you're on the Michigan side of this, looking at this, knowing just how big this game is. One of the concerns for me going into this game is the run game and the offensive line for Michigan. They've not been bad by any stretch. No. But it's not been the level. It's not been the Joe Moore Heisman candidate level.
Corum and Edwards have not been the Corum and Edwards of last year.
And that's not to say that they're not both good. Corum is still very, very good. And I think his performances, his numbers prove that. But it's not been the elite level that we saw last year. And same thing, excuse me, same thing with the offensive line. It's not been bad by any stretch. But they don't look like the 2-time Joe Moore Award winners. Yeah. So I'm a little concerned to see what that looks like going up against a team like Penn State. The comfort in that for me is I really trust J.J. McCarthy. He had I would consider, and he even admitted this, he looked a little bit off against Purdue. He looked a little bit off. There were some balls that he usually hits on that he didn't quite have, more incompletions than he's used to, but his pedestrian still threw for about 350 yards. Now, stats aren't everything, but they're not nothing. I trust J.J. McCarthy in this game quite a bit. My concern on the other side is what I'm calling good Drew Allar, where he's throwing the ball 30 to 40 times a game. That's part of the game plan. He looked good against Maryland. The comfort is bad Drew Allar, and we've also seen plenty of that too.
In the 2 weeks prior.
Against Ohio State, and let's not forget they almost lost at home to Indiana. I mean, that's inexcusable. So I also take here's where I'll wrap it up. The 2 things for me that give me comfort in this game and will weigh into my predictions. I believe in J.J. McCarthy, and I really believe in Michigan's defense.
What's your score? And then I'll share mine.
Penn State's only ranked matchup, they scored 6 points. Sorry, they scored 12. I forgot they scored a garbage time touchdown on Ohio State.
We'll go with that.
Penn State's only ranked matchup against a good defense, they scored 6 points. 31-20, Michigan.
Okay.
Close game, vom.com whole time.
We're not far off.
But 31-20. And I'm going to go ahead and step out on a limb here and call a Colston-Loveland game.
Ooh, are you doing my version?
Colston, this is your bet. I'm going to take it. 2 touchdowns, Colston-Loveland.
How many yards? Because I love a good.
I don't know. Give the man, give him 85.
How many catches? So 2 touchdowns, 85 yards. I want to be able to keep track. I have fun doing this. 8 catches, 85 yards, 2 tutties.
I think he's going to be a beast. I think Penn State has a good defense.
Love it.
And I think everyone keys in on Roman Wilson.
I'm glad you're coming on board for a Michigan.
And we saw it, right? We saw A.J. Barner and Colson Laughlin both have themselves a day against Michigan State. Why not? Why not? I think Michigan comes out of Happy Valley with a big win.
I've got my final. We're not far off. My final, Michigan 34, Penn State 24. I think when it comes down to it at the end of the day, who do I trust more, J.J. McCarthy or Drew Allar?
Exactly.
Because I think both defenses are insanely good.
Yeah.
I think Michigan obviously has the running game has a significant advantage. I haven't seen it from Donovan Edwards yet this year, but I still think I haven't seen it from Singleton and Kaytron Allen either.
What separates Dono is that he's a threat catching the ball.
Yeah.
I mean,
and that's where he still gets about 50 to 60 yards.
That first drive of the game where maybe Ryan Walters should have spent less time podcasting and more time putting his defense in coverage, where Donovan should have had the touchdown there. He gets one later in the game, but that's where he's going to be more of a threat. And I expect them to use him like that. I expect Samaj Morgan to get some trick plays in there.
I don't think that there's a way that this game isn't a nail biter, at least midway through the fourth. I could see this being a 28-24 and then you guys going and getting 2 field goals or something. I could see it being a very close nail biter up towards about midway point of the fourth quarter.
I'm going to be sick. I can tell you that right now.
I'm going to be watching every second until I absolutely have to leave to make it to the Buckeye game that night.
God bless my wife they've got like a friend's like 1-year-old birthday party or something. So she's taking the boys right after their nap time to that. And I told her this might be good because I'm going to be pacing around trying to be a very good Christian. And you know what? We all fall short.
Hey,
we all fall short sometimes.
The Lord understands.
All right. So we both have Michigan in a nail biter in that one. Both have Ohio State by a lot against Michigan State. Let's slide on over to Stupid Genius. This is brought to you by the J Company. Fall in love with your home all over again at the JAEcompany.com.
I hate it.
The score.
We don't need to say it.
The rules again are you pick an upset. Must be at least a 5-point spread. Or excuse me, 4.5. Has to be at least a 4.5 point spread. You get 5 points for getting the upset correct, plus whatever the spread was that they overcame. I think I've picked like
you've had
6 out of 9.
Honestly, a surprisingly good amount.
5 out of 9, 6 out of 9, something like that. I've got like 2 or 3 in a row now. I picked Oklahoma State again in Stillwater. Baby, Bedlam comes through for me. It is now 67-0.
I stand no chance.
I've
got to throw 4 verts the rest of this season.
You've said that for 4 weeks, though, and this is why you have nothing.
But it's because I have to throw 4 verts. Hail Mary's coming next week.
Do you want me to go first this week?
No, let me just do it so you can make fun of it. Miami over Florida State, 15-point underdogs. I'm going for it. It's at Florida State.
What makes you think that Miami could beat Florida State?
I feel like Miami is good.
Is your method just to go, that one?
That was my all season long method. My method now is I feel like Miami is always good for at least one gritty win where you're like, what the heck, Miami? And this feels like that. I feel like Florida State, I've never really bought in on them this year.
24-7 over Pitt and kind of slogged their way through that first half. So
Keon Coleman's a massive stud. Jordan Travis a stud, but I've just not bought in on them.
I agree. And Miami also, if they knew how to kneel the football, was 7-2. Mm-hmm. You know, you're wrong, but I would love
for
to,
sure.
I'd love to see you. I'd love to see it. It's not going to happen.
No.
I'll be honest. I did not like any of the options this week for upset picks. But I've got one. I don't know if it's spicier than that, but it's pretty spicy. I told you Oregon would make another appearance on this podcast.
You call it an upset?
Give me Caleb Williams and USC over Oregon. 15-point dogs.
Can we do a very brief discussion on this?
Yeah, apparently. It's a podcast. Yeah, that's what we're doing.
After USC this week and after this loss against Washington, there's footage of Caleb Williams crying with his parents.
I hate it.
I want to say one thing about it. Anybody that's making fun of that, anybody that is making that seem like he is less of an NFL quarterback and teams shouldn't draft, that is atrocious.
You see how bad the kid wants it?
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. I'm walking away from that and I'm going, this dude, if he had even a somewhat I'm trying to think of it as
like
somewhat,
a remotely competent defense.
If they would be better not putting people on the field. It's like, what did you expect this man to do? He's scoring 40 plus points a game.
Well, that's actually part of my reasoning in this pick is how bad Caleb Williams wants this. The whole like, oh, he's checking out for the NFL. No, he's not. He's coming in and he's got something to prove against, again, another Heisman candidate in Bo Nix.
Yeah.
Now, do I think Caleb's out of the running?
For the Heisman,
probably. But he's got something to prove to NFL scouts, though, as he goes up against Bo Nix. Also, USC fired Grinch. So, I mean, listen, the defense ain't getting any worse.
Nope.
Why not? And this is in a weird time slot, too, right? This is a 10:30 Eastern kick. Will I be usually? And here's the truth. I know I'm getting old now because I will fall asleep on the couch after like the Michigan game. Like I'll fall asleep.
Yeah.
Like I'm trying to stay awake for these games for like Washington, USA. I can't make it. I'm going to put on a pot of coffee. I'm staying up. I'm going to watch this game.
Absolutely.
Something about this game, man. I feel like USC is going to get one. I feel like they're good to get one.
I hope you're right. I love watching Caleb Williams. I think even this past weekend, he had himself a heck of a game.
Yeah, of course.
And so that's the thing that really irritated me is all these people making fun of him, saying how he's weak. They wouldn't draft him. Even people that are like high up analysts in the game are talking trash. And I just think that's a weak argument. To me, that solidified him as number one to me because it shows the passion and that he puts his all into the game. Dude could have checked out this year because he was going to go number one, but now he's for sure number one.
What you have is you've got this perception, this good old boy mentality of men don't cry and blah, blah, blah. Just admit you're dead inside and you're not emotionally healthy. Like it's okay to admit that. Okay. Final thing here, college football playoff rankings, edition number 2 coming out on Tuesday night. So depending on when you're listening to this podcast, we record Monday mornings. Again, reading comprehension seems difficult for some of you on YouTube. We record Monday mornings. So this information may change, but we got the first rankings out of the way. Rank them not how you think they should be, or excuse me, not how you think they will be on Tuesday night.
Yeah, how I think.
Rank them how you would have them 1 through 4 and first 2 out.
Okay, I've got Ohio State 1, Michigan at 2, Georgia 3, Washington 4, my first 2 out, Oregon and Florida State.
In that order?
Florida State 5, Oregon at 6.
Okay. That's not bad. You're wrong.
You're going to put Michigan at 1. So
yeah, I've got Georgia at 1.
Okay.
I've got Georgia at 1. I'll give you some reasoning. Georgia at 1, Michigan at 2. I've got Ohio State at 3, which actually kind of follows the AP poll right now. Washington is 4 for me. Florida State, Oregon, 5 and 6. I'm with you on I don't know how Florida State keeps getting away with it, but they can't keep getting away with it.
Yeah.
They will this week, though. For me, the big thing for me, and I hope that this is how it comes out in the playoff rankings, is Georgia had the eye test, but not the resume. Whatever you think of Mizzou, it's still the 12th ranked team in the country.
Well, and they gave them a little bit of a scare. So, I mean,
I'm going to give the 12th ranked team in the country credit, whether or not I believe in Mizzou. Georgia now I think has the eye test and the resume. Michigan has the eye test. There's no question about that.
Yeah.
They will get the chance to be a resume builder. I'm still going to put them at 2 for right now. Ohio State, though, I just think the eye test is not there. I know there's been a lot of talk about the resume. The eye test is not there for me. And I think the resume took a hit this week.
A 19-point win isn't a bad thing.
Not for Rutgers, but I'm saying eye test I think took a hit because of the way that they played.
Okay.
But I think resume takes a hit. Notre Dame.
Yeah,
now with 3 losses out of the going to drop out of the rankings.
Which Clemson is such a weird team because I feel like they have the talent to beat anybody.
Look what they almost did to Florida State, right?
Yeah, they have the talent to beat anybody.
But the reality is it's still a 4-loss Clemson team beating now with 3-loss Notre Dame. I don't buy that that's a big win anymore.
Sam Hartman has been a huge disappointment.
Holy cow.
Huge disappointment.
And again, you don't look at, an inch this way or that way. Like you can't look at it that way.
Yeah.
But I can. An inch
you
this
can't,
way
but
or
I
that
will.
way. Ohio State doesn't. So Ohio State took every second to beat a 3-loss Notre Dame team is, I think, not the greatest look. It's still a good win, but that's not a resume building win anymore for me.
I think it being on the road, I still think Notre Dame is a good squad. Georgia is going to have another chance.
Good win, but I don't want to hear it in the, look at our resume anymore because it just doesn't apply now.
See, I think it still does because they're still a top ranked team and Michigan hasn't played Not
Notre Dame?
They're still going to be in the top 25.
No, they aren't. There's
You don't
no
think
way.
so?
Oh,
You
no
don't think-
way.
I think maybe they
No
will
way.
be. Georgia's going to have another chance this week. They play Ole Miss, which is who I almost took.
Yeah.
I almost took that as my stupid genius.
Georgia looks locked in, man. I know there was a lot we talked
Mizzou
about.
gave them a scare, but that
They did.
defense is tough.
I don't buy Mizzou as a legitimate threat. I do buy Ole Miss. I don't think Ole Miss is a playoff caliber
Who did
team.
Ole Miss upset? LSU? Was it LSU they beat earlier this year?
Maybe. I'm blanking on it right
I think
now.
they beat LSU.
They've got the offense to get it done. And I think it'll be a really good football game. I don't know if I think Ole Miss can get it done.
Georgia's defense is still, and Beck has surprised me too. I thought I'm waiting for him to slip up.
And without Brock Bowers too. But you will hear no complaints from either of us if the SEC Georgia goes down. Also, it'd be nice if Alabama could drop a game to Kentucky. That'd be kind of cool.
Please,
You'll notice
Lord.
neither of us took them though. On social media, at Rival Pod. Thank you for subscribing wherever you get your podcasts. Subscribe on YouTube as well at Rival Pod. And consider becoming a Patreon subscriber. We'll see you next week. Follow us on Instagram at Rival Pod. JP's going to be at the game this weekend. Go Blue.
Go Bucks.
The Rivalry is a production of River Radio Ministries. Want live updates from the show? Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube at RivalPod. Visit our Patreon and consider becoming a patron for exclusive bonus content, merch, and more. And be sure to follow us wherever you're listening now for new episodes every Tuesday. And if you like what you're hearing, tell a friend so they can listen too.